Hi, this is Annie from the ADHD Minimalist, and today I would like to talk about what I dislike about my tiny kitchen. I don't live in a tiny house, but we have a very small house. It's about 100 square, it's about 100 square meters, but I'm trying to think what that is in feet. But it's not very big. I guess you're gonna have to do the math. And we're 5 people who live here. Right now, my oldest is actually away during the week sometimes, and he is in school there, but he's home on the weekends. And so we've been 5 people in this house for a long time, and it's actually quite a squeeze to make it work. This kitchen is incredibly small. It's about the same size of a kitchen you would get in a tiny house. And so I call it my tiny kitchen. But I would like to look at some things. We're planning on renovating the kitchen in the not too far distant future. So we've been sort of like sketching things, and this layout doesn't really work all that well. Plus that when we come in the kitchen, like sometimes our kids want to come in here too. So then we're like 5 people in this incredibly tiny space. So we need to get some more floor space as well, which means less storage, which means I can't have all that much stuff in here. So we're going to look at some things that are a problem. And like if you're planning to fix your kitchen, I mean, some of this stuff is good for every kitchen, even if it's a big kitchen, things to think about. But especially if you have a small kitchen and you're planning on remodeling, this is the video for you. Okay, here you're getting a picture of my semi-clean kitchen. Right now, if you look at this kitchen, it's a U-shaped, and it's a little bit wider maybe than your normal galley kitchen. Not much. I mean, if you're considering like if you have a galley kitchen and you can open stuff, like if you open that, if this was a 60 cupboard and it came out to like there or something, you would hardly be able to squeeze into the kitchen if both of those were open. So that's something to think about if you have a galley kitchen, especially if you had less square footage between the cupboards that you can just open and shut things. Sometimes like even on one of these like TV shows where like people who renovate houses, they were suggesting things that I've seen like kitchen designers tell you not to do. So they had like if this was the stove here, then exactly on the opposite side they had the sink. I understand that you're supposed to have a working triangle, but if you look at most designs, it's more like, I mean, you have the sink and the stove and the fridge. This is a triangle, but it's kind of weird because the sink and the stove are just like smashed up against each other, but they're not supposed to be directly across from each other. Because what happens then is if somebody is standing here and that's the sink, they're standing there, and then if it's a galley kitchen and the stove is over here and somebody's standing there and they're trying to like open the oven and different things like that, then it's just not going to work. You're going to be bumping your butt into the person who's at the sink. So you got to sort of think about space, and sometimes it's easy just to like tape it off if your house doesn't have a kitchen at all. Just like go in and tape where the cupboards are going to go on the floor, and then use your tape measure and just kind of walk around and mark like, if I open this and this, then how much space do I have? This is kind of in the wrong spot, although when we put it in my husband wanted to put it over there where those cupboards are, and then you would have been having the case where you stand here and you can't get into the cupboards to throw things away or put the compost in there, and you're like leaning over the door to the dishwasher to try to put stuff in. So like this isn't at all like if that were the dishwasher, this would have been a terrible setup because you can't get those doors open. And that's something I see in small kitchens too sometimes, that you can't get into the sink when you open the dishwasher. And for me, it's like really important to have a dishwasher because I would not be able to get all the dishes done otherwise. If we open the freezer, then you can hardly get into the kitchen either if that's open. So mainly galley kitchens that you're gonna have this problem. If you have an L-shaped kitchen, it might be better. But I've seen like even at my mom's house, who is a big kitchen, their island is so big compared to the rest of the kitchen that like sometimes you're bumping into people because there's not that much space around the island. So it's kind of turned into a galley kitchen, and she has like doors that you open and then you pull out the drawer. And so that just also creates a lot more time that the door is open and the drawers are out and people can't get by. So just make sure you have enough space, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Another thing that I dislike, we changed the doors. These are the same cupboards, but they're all wonky because like, do you see that like that is, it's just the house is shifted or something, and like it made all of this stuff. So my husband sat and fiddled with us when we changed the doors because see on the left side here, there it's not straight, it's closer together at the bottom and bigger at the top. I mean like there's a lot of like weird stuff going on in here, And like some of these other, like here's our trash can, like they're just getting really worn out. I've tried to paint over that and like over that a couple times, but they just don't, it doesn't keep. It's just really worn out. So, but we did put in the dishwasher because there was no dishwasher. So that's about all we've done in here, and it's maybe lasted 5 years, but I'm really disappointed, honestly, because we got the first door, see, like that's a hole in the door, and it's not even that it's hitting this, which this is another problem, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So we got these new doors, and they're just MDF, so they're not that expensive, but that's what you would get like at IKEA. But like, see here, here's another spot where it's like just, it's got a spot that's missing. There aren't too many of those, but we first got these another kind that sort of looked like bead board, you know, they had like these lines, and those just got crazy ugly after less than a year. Like, I mean, a year and a half, maybe less than 2 years. So they gave us new ones, and then I said I don't want the same ones because it might be that kind, and so they gave us these that are a little bit more like a little fancier shaker style ones. And honestly, it didn't take long. It took like about a year, and like stuff was just like nicking off of them. Paint started coming off, and we don't really know why it's happening, but I just feel like it might be better sometimes to just skip like the cheap budget renovations and then just do it a really good job and get wood instead of this MDF stuff, because probably our kids, if they want to take over our house when we're old, they're not going to love the idea of like old MDF. I mean, at least old wood, you can paint it, you can do something with it. Old MDF, it's pretty much you just have to trash it. I would say save your money and just to get better products, because we've changed the doors twice, and both times it just didn't keep very well. So now we're just gonna like wait until we rip everything out, because we have some problems behind these walls. We need to re-insulate that wall. It's an outside wall. So back to what I was talking about, things that don't work. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted. This we do not like, because the drawers they're right here in the middle of this wall. And see, there's the stove and there's the fridge. And so this is exactly where you want to stand and prep. And the problem with that is that you're standing here and people coming in all the time, like my daughter, like, I need to get into the drawer, I need a snack, or I need a scissors, or I need a knife. And like, that's the only set of drawers where you can really have, I mean, I guess I could maybe move the silverware over here, but I don't know that I have this much silverware. So this is actually the spice drawer. And I honestly have too many spices to fit it in this top drawer, but that's like the only other option as far as where to put silverware and stuff. So I'm thinking about, when I change things around, to put the sink here in front of the window, and then to have a little thing of drawers here, because you're not going to stand there very often. And so, and it's also quite close to like the table and stuff, so people can just run over there and get the silverware, and they don't have to ask the person who's cutting things, who's always in front of these drawers, to move all the time. Kind of laugh because last night I think it was one of my daughters was standing there trying to do something, and then everybody else kept trying to get in the drawer, and it was about 6 or 7 times in a row, like in 10 minutes. So she was kind of frustrated at the end of it, because I mean, of course you're trying to do something, somebody else is standing here by the stove, so you can't get over there, and like, so it doesn't really matter where you stand, because these are only, this is 30 and this is 40 centimeters. I'm sorry, I don't really know what that is. It's just, and that's 60 centimeters. And so you can't really just like, unless you're really, really, really skinny, you're going to cover up both of these cabinets and drawers standing here if somebody else is over here by the stove. So just really think about where you place things and how often you get into certain drawers. The stuff that you don't need that often, is better to have that where you're going to stand and do your prep for your meals. So that's one thing that didn't work. And then this didn't work either. See that? It like, we actually put this in, but it's gotten kind of worn out, so it's not like keeping the tension anymore. But for a while it was like keeping the door like that, so it wasn't banging into that part of the stove, and now it's not even working anymore. But that means that when I try to get stuff out of this cabinet, which it's a huge cabinet that goes like all the way back there, that I can't get the cabinet all the way open. And if you're gonna get something from way back there, you're actually almost like crawling in this cabinet. So this cabinet is terrible. So I don't know, I don't really have that much stuff back there. I don't know what it is, that waffle maker, because I can't get it out. Up here I have a few things that were wedding gifts that I honestly don't use very often. So there's a little bit more stuff up here, but it's really not that much stuff in there because it was just completely useless space. Okay, this is like a twofold problem. The people who made the house or put in the original kitchen, they didn't pull this cabinet out far enough. they just didn't consider that the stove, even though they tend to be 60 by 60 centimeters in Europe, that the handle and different things stick out. So this was just like an amateur kitchen design, and they didn't take into considerations the actual dimensions of things. So try to make sure that you have at least like, I don't know, I would say maybe 6 centimeters or like 3 inches or something like extra when you're trying to get stuff around the stove, because you want to get this cupboard completely open, because this also prevents me, like, I could have bought some kind of thing that sits in here and like rolls out or something, but because I can't get the door all the way open, I can't even buy an upgrade for this cupboard to like make it more usable. This is just kind of a bummer, pretty much. Another thing is that a handmade countertop, but it doesn't actually cover all the stuff underneath, so this is just getting really, really dirty because stuff spills in there a lot. So I think if we reuse this countertop, we're gonna like pull it forward a little bit and then make another extra piece to fit in the back, possibly, because it's also like, it's sort of like, it's a little bit wonky, like it kind of sticks out more like right here, and then it goes in a little bit more. So if you spill stuff on certain spots, it like drips onto the top of the doors, and that's just kind of annoying because the kids spill a lot. So it's better to have your countertop, if you have small children, I know it's like a little bit different look, but they say that if you're worried about things spilling a lot and having to wipe it up, you should have it like stick out a little bit. And I think it's probably only like a centimeter, like past the cabinets or something, like half an inch maybe, but it keeps stuff from like dripping down here. And like honestly, the other day stuff dripped off of here and it dripped into the cupboard, so I had like a pool down here. And so if you want to avoid that, then the countertop really does need to come out a little bit past the cabinets. And don't do what I saw somebody do at work when we were renovating. They measured for the countertops in an apartment, and they forgot that the countertop does have to at least come out and cover the tops of the doors. So even if you don't have overhang, like this is about a centimeter, so you have the countertop and it has to be at least as deep as the cupboards. And then you need to make sure, if you're having like IKEA cupboards that have this new like metal strip, and then you like slide the cabinets on there, that kind of adds a little bit of space too to the back of the cabinets that you didn't have before. So you have, I don't know what this is actually doing here, if that's just because this countertop was too small or what, but you can sometimes cover that with a piece of trim if it's a little bit too short. But you have to measure the cabinets, make sure you know if they're getting pulled out from the wall at all, and then add this like at least a centimeter for the doors, and if not 2, because you want some overhang. So like all of those things are really important when you're like telling people how to cut the countertops because it's kind of an expensive investment to get new countertops, and you don't want to mess it up. So another thing that I don't feel like really doesn't really work in this kitchen is that the sink and the stove are like right by each other, because I don't have anywhere, like if you think that normally if you had something dirty that you were going to wash by hand, you would probably put it here. So right now, like everything dirty gets put in one of these sinks, and I have a really hard time. I would like to keep one part of this sink like clean all the time and one part maybe dirty, but it's hard for the kids to figure that out. So they just like, there's nowhere to put it here, because over here is where I actually want things to be clean. And so right now, actually the dirty stuff is like inched over here. But like for me, like a normal workflow, if I had to wash a few things by hand, and usually this stuff ends up going in the dishwasher, sorry, but you'd put it here and then you'd wash it, and then maybe you have water in a mixing bowl or something here just to rinse it, and then you'd put it over here to dry. But you can't get like the right flow doing this, because if this is all dirty too, then I have nowhere to dry the clean dishes because I can't put them on the stove. So something that I'm considering is if I have this sink here, like there's not a lot of space up here, but possibly there, or like even just like a weird custom cabinet above here. I think we're just gonna have to go, my husband is gonna end up having to make some of these cabinets because this is just a really wonky kitchen. But I would really like to have one of those drying cupboards where you can put it in there and it dries, and then you don't have to see it all the time, because even if it's not a lot of space, but it's probably enough, because what happens most of the time is that this is actually for drying baby bottles, but I still have it because a lot of the time when we wash things like this, it takes a long time to dry because it's plastic, and so it ends up sitting out for a couple days before I actually get it put away because it took a long time to dry. So I don't really want to see those things, and I do know that it will feel like less open if I end up with a cupboard up there, but just the ease of like not having to have those things on my counter I think might be worth it. And so I have to move my cups. I'm actually thinking about putting those cups with the feet or I don't know what they are exactly, I just bought them at secondhand stores, but to move those further down so that my youngest daughter can reach them, and then just like not having any other kind of cups. We can just use those for everything. They just come from secondhand stores. They're not expensive. If they break, it doesn't matter. It's just a really nice way to store them. And then I can free up cabinet space, because otherwise I have cups in here. And I tried to like make a divider up there at one point, so I taped part of a cereal box. I need to just take that away because it's not really serving a purpose anymore. In here, those are just used for like noodles and stuff that my oldest daughter really likes. But other than that, like this is coffee cups and glasses and stuff like that, but I don't even really like these. And if I could get those other cups so they're reachable for the kids, then I don't even need to use space in this cupboard. I could put something else here, which would be nice. Another thing that is a problem in here is that this fan is too low. If you measure this like from the bottom of that to the top of the stove, it is 50 centimeters, I believe it was when I measured it, and it's supposed to be at least 60. I could remeasure that if I had to, I guess, but it could even be 40, that this is 40 centimeters, not even 50. Like, it was incredibly low. And so what happens when I'm trying to cook and I put something like on one of these back burners, I sort of have to like stick my head around the fan and look under it, and I'm not very tall and I can't even see what I'm cooking. And so that is just kind of ridiculous. The problem was that there wasn't enough space up to the ceiling because this fan goes outside. The main problem is that this stove should never have been shoved in the corner. I think that we're going to put the stove where this is, and then get a shorter fridge, maybe like a Smeek one that matches that green. I kind of like that. And then put it in the corner over there where the microwave is, and then turn this into more like a galley kitchen, so this sink and the stove will just disappear, so there's more space in here for if 5 of us are all going to stand in the kitchen at the same time, that there's actually the floor space for that. So I will lose some cabinet space, but like I said, like this cupboard, I'm not hardly using that at all. And on this side, I am using it a little bit for like, this is my way of making sure that I recycle, is that I just put a shopping bag here. And so I have the trash, I have the compost beside it, which there's other options for this, but then I just put like stuff that needs to get recycled in there. And then I have another one back here, and this is for cans. I don't know if you can hear those, but so if I change this cupboard and have it over here, it might only be 80 centimeters. This is still 80 centimeters. It's just that I have that extra space on the side, so it might be a bit of a squish, but and I might have to move where we put our recyclable cans, but I think I can still get the compost, the trash, and at least one of those bags for recycling things, even if I don't have that extra space over there. I just honestly just throw all the recycling in the same bag, and I just drive it to, when we go get groceries, it's not that far to drive to the place where you leave the recycling. It's pretty close. And so I'll just sort it out of the bag as I run around there. And like, there's just these containers that say newspapers or plastic packaging and different things. And so I'll just leave it in there until I get there and just run around and sort it at the time. And if you, every time you got groceries, if you took your bag with you, honestly, that would take like hardly no time at all. But the problem is, I guess, when it's unsorted and you haven't taken it for months, and then this wouldn't be very successful system, I guess, if you were saving your stuff and just taking it every few months. So you're just gonna have to find a system for that works for you and how you recycle where you live. But another thing that I actually like about this, there's actually something I like about this kitchen. I do like the fact that the sink has doors. Once a week, I help out at for kids, like after school, they can come and do some activities and stuff. And so feeding them an after school snack, and then the sink, and then they have like this industrial dishwasher that's under the counter. And and then here all the drawers pull out, so everybody's coming and like telling me like, oh, we need to like scrape our plate into the compost, and I'm standing right here. And so what you end up doing is like they're pulling out this drawer, and you're standing like about this far away from the, there's my feet, about this far away from the sink, and like reaching over and like trying to do stuff while people are in the drawer. What I like about the doors, especially the double doors, is that if I open that and somebody wants to get to the compost, I can stand on this side. Or if somebody wants to get to the trash can, I can stand on this side. And so I'm not like hurting my back, I guess is what I want to say, by moving to the side. So that's one thing I will do again. I'm not going to do drawers under my sink. One thing that I'm kind of hoping to do is to either incorporate the microwave into a bank of cabinets, or to maybe like get a stove that's also a microwave, because there is not a lot of space in this kitchen. But one other thing that's actually wrong in this kitchen that I notice in a lot of kitchens is that if you talk to kitchen designers, they usually say that the fan is supposed to be wider than the stove. So this fan is 60 centimeters, the stove is 60 centimeters, and technically the fan should be at least 70 centimeters, because of course when you're making food and like stuff is like going up like this, it's not going straight up. Like I'll notice that I get like, I haven't cleaned this for a while, but like, you know, like this gunky covering of fat like on the back of the stove. But I mean, it's like way over there. Like this isn't in this area under the stove, and sometimes it's like further back, or like it's on this or something, or like over here. And that's because, I mean, it's like spreading out as it goes up. And so if you have a wider fan, that takes care of that problem. So I'm going to try to incorporate a wider fan into this kitchen, which might be tricky, honestly, but I'm going to try to do it. And the other thing is that I'm going to put the dishwasher in the corner over there. And remember, this is a delete for the sink and a delete for the stove. So, and that will open over there, and then I don't have to worry about like trying to squeeze around it and like having other things open on the side. So, oh, and if you're wondering about the floor, that I was like trying to see what would happen if I painted the floor a different color, and I decided I didn't like it. And then over here I tried a white paint. Anyway, this floor is kind of gross, and so I think it's a wooden floor, and I dislike it in the kitchen because, one, you spill a lot of water and this is not watertight, and two, like these cracks get, I don't know if you can see that, but they get really, really gross. And I've tried to like dig stuff out of here with a knife, and I can't even get it all out of there. It just gets stuck into the cracks in the floor. And so I had rugs here for a long time to try to like cover that up, but it didn't really help because stuff just kind of like went under the rug and got in the cracks, and then the rugs got dirty after 2 days. So I was washing them all the time because my kids spill. I'm gonna replace this floor with probably something that's like tile or stone or something. We're getting rid of this wooden floor. Gonna have something that's a little bit more waterproof and a little bit easier to clean. And I know I don't like to clean grout on tile. I think tile is probably the best option here, considering that stuff gets spilled. And another thing about the sink, and then it being like this open crack here, and then the stove, is that water does go over the edge. So this is a problem that, I mean, especially if it's like my kids are trying to help me with something, and it's just like they're filling something up and it overflows and it flows over the edge, or they're trying to wash something and it just like splashes and runs down the side of the stove. I can't pull the stove out myself like every time that happens, and so I hope we're not like rotting the floor like right here, but it'll be interesting when we pull it up to see what happens. But you kind of need, even if you have a sink that has a lip, this is more like an industrial kind of sink, but you still need something that's like up close to it and sealed. Or you need to like maybe set the sink into the countertop or under the countertop, and then that it continues. But this like gap here right by the sink is just not a good idea. Well, you want any other tips? Like, we did this backsplash ourselves, and we just smashed a bunch of plates. My kids and I, we put on ski goggles and like got hammers and smashed plates, and my kids still think that was fun. And then we actually just tiled this over other tile, and it's pretty old now, and so like you can kind of see here, it's like stuff is like kind of chipping and grout is falling out, but it was fun. I really do like this, and I've enjoyed this for a while. Like, it just was just sort of a quick update to make the kitchen feel like it was ours. It didn't cost very much. Like, there's blue tiles here, and we just left that and painted that backsplash as just like some kind of beadboard. And then these, I mean, there's so few of them, it didn't hardly cost anything. I didn't even actually think about what the price was. I know they just knew I wanted blue, and then I just left this spacer just to do something fun, because having the whole backsplash like that might be just too much. But then what we did is that we went to the hardware store and got the glue that was like really super duper glue that stuck to everything, and so we tiled this on top of the old tile, which is kind of crazy, but it doesn't even look bad. I mean, like, there, see here, there, you see that is actually double tiled, and you don't really notice it. I mean, I don't think that looks that bad. Probably looks worse up close, but if you look at it from here, and I know like this might be a little bit weird, but the original tile like stuck out a little bit further than that. And like I said, everything in here is kind of getting wonky. It needs to be replaced again. But that's what it turned out looking at, the one edge that's kind of sticking out. Anyway, nobody's ever come over here and be like, oh, why did you tiled on top of tile? It looks so weird. Or nobody's ever noticed, and none of the tiles are falling down. Like we're losing grout maybe in one spot by the stove, but other than that, everything is stuck up here really well. So if you just have the right glue, you don't even have to do the demo on the tile backsplash, which was pretty amazing, I thought. I mean, we did like a lot of like really like budget things like this. We just didn't like the color. It was really red, and so I just sort of did a whitewash on it so it didn't look quite so red. And other than that, we like installed, I think this one we might have just changed the doors on and moved that cupboard, but then this cupboard and that cupboard are new, I want to say. Dad came and helped us. I don't know if you can see, but it's a wall of logs back there, and they weren't even, and so he was like up there on the ladder with a hatchet, like trying to chip some wood off the wall to get it to fit. And like another thing is that this kitchen isn't straight. Probably the proper thing to do would be to like measure everything out and like try to make this wall straight, but this is a log wall and they just followed the wall, so it's not straight. So this bank of cabinets isn't straight, like it's kind of like sticking out actually more out here, and it's going into the corner, so it's sticking out less in the corner. So like trying to, like, if you have an old house, like take all the measurements, and it's not going to be straight everywhere. Like that the ceiling comes down to one point there, and that measurement is different than this measurement. So it's like the way this house is everywhere. It's like nothing is straight. We're probably gonna do some of our own cabinets maybe, and maybe make them go up to the ceiling or something, and have, I don't know, doors that aren't square. But we're gonna have to take measurements for every single thing by itself, because it won't be the same anywhere else. It's like just nothing is the same. So that's something to keep in mind. And then what happens then is that because this wasn't straight, and they didn't have this fridge originally, they had a different fridge. I think that was shorter or something, I don't know. But then we cut this off, this countertop off, I think a little bit to get the fridge in here, and we didn't think about the fact that this isn't straight, and so we should have cut it crooked, but now this is straight and this is crooked. And if we push the fridge all the way over here, then we get a weird gap on the back side, which it's kind of like up against another cabinet that we use more for like my kids to put their backpacks in after school. But then you get a weird gap on that side, and that looks worse than having a gap here. But that's just something we didn't think about. We just cut this because it was supposed to be straight with that, but it just kind of looks weird because nothing is straight. So sometimes it's better not to just do anything straight. Just throw your level out the window, except that you probably want your cabinets to be level, the ones that you have under and over your counter. But I mean, like for other things, like sometimes you just need to make a trick of the eye and just forget about making it actually straight or level, because it'll look better if it's not that way if you have an old house. So I hope that was everything I was going to cover on here. That was like things that were not practical. And the door is right here, so we're kind of limited as far as, you can't make the kitchen any bigger on the side, and the other side of the fridge is the way into the living room. So like we're kind of stuck with this. We do have a table on the other side, and we might put a couple cupboards behind the table, but they might not be able to be 60 deep. So you won't be able to put huge things in there, but maybe some small appliances, which could be helpful. These are really old, but we put them in here. This actually says that it's rice, or maybe grits is a better word in English, but we put salt in this one, which is kind of funny because there is one that says salt, but it was kind of high up there. Anyway, we just sort of put random stuff in those, like birthday candles and stuff. It was sort of just the way to use the space. But if you're going custom, sometimes you can find stuff at secondhand stores that's pretty cool and just like incorporate it into the design. I mean, like some of these are obviously, they're not really like stuck in there because the top two don't really have a lid, so I don't really use those that much. But this, I mean, this is pretty safe. I mean, I don't get any bugs coming into there or anything. It just keeps it nice and sealed. So and then again, like I said in another video, I just kind of like empty stuff into some of these glass jars. But make sure you buy glass jars that are big enough to put a whole bag or a whole sack of things into. All right, that's about all. If you have any questions or comments, or I have a question for you, actually. I have this terrible Tupperware drawer that looks like this. So maybe I've tried to organize it to keep organized, but I have this problem. Well, like these actually come from work that I end up bringing home sometimes, but sometimes I take them back. So those aren't maybe a permanent fixture, but when I wash things and they're wet, then sometimes I'll just put them in here, and I don't want them to put them inside each other like that because it'll get stinky and gross. So I'm sort of using this to like dry things, which I suppose if I got a cabinet that was on the wall for drying things, that would solve part of this problem, which is why stuff isn't getting put away and stacked properly. But I don't know if anybody has any tips on how to organize a Tupperware drawer. Please let me know. I mean, honestly, if I see, here's another problem. My husband put stuff in the wrong spot. Bless his heart. He was really nice and did the dishes yesterday, which is really great. Sometimes I find stuff in weird spots. Those don't actually go there. But honestly, I don't think I have that much stuff in here, but actually gets put where it's supposed to go, and I get rid of these extra things that came from work. But I still can't, even when I organize it, I can't seem to keep it clean. I don't know if it's just me, or if it's that my family members don't know where stuff goes, or if it's the fact that it's just getting stuff in here and used as a drying rack. So, because, you know, plastic does take a really long time to dry. So please give me some advice. I could use some advice. It's honestly barely shutting. So I hope you guys have a really great day, and keep an eye out for, I have a book coming out soon, and I'm really excited about it. And so I will let you know more about that when I know exactly what day it's going to get released. So keep an eye out. Thanks so much, guys. It's so fun to hang out with you. Bye. I will maybe make a video on that later, how to organize some of this junk on the fridge. Started selling you bags that are super expensive at the grocery store, so that's what that is. I haven't found a better spot to store those. Other than that, be sure to like and subscribe if you find this content helpful, and let me know in the comments if there's any video that you'd really like me to make, or any part of my home or something that you'd really like to see. So have a great day. Feel free to comment, and I will try to respond to everybody's comment. I love responding to comments, actually. It's one of my favorite things about making videos. So have a great day. Bye.